Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal. I am professor and head Department of Nephrology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences and working in a transplant related activity for last 35 to 40 years. Now, whatever transplant related activity across the country, in any country, is bound by the law. And if you see the Indian law, it says that the basic two objective is to provide for the regulation of removal, storage, and transplantation of human organs and tissue for therapeutic purpose. But the second one is much more important as the objective of Transplant Act is prevention of commercial dealing in the human organ. Now you see, this is the most controversial objective, which is very difficult to assess objectively. Even in a living related transplant program, it is, with my experience, if you take 35 years in All India Institute, even there is a commercial transaction in kind or cash between the siblings also. And we cannot close our eyes that this doesn't happen. So for transplant, you see, we need a donor source, and it can be divided into two broad categories: living donors and the deceased donor. Now, deceased donor can again be where donation is after brain death, which is happening across the world, including India, in most of the deceased donor program. And the second type of deceased donor source is donation after cardiac death, which in many countries is active, but as far as India is concerned, this donation after circulatory death or after cardiac death is almost minuscule. We can count on finger that one or two or three centers are able to do. Now, this is not my area which I want to talk to you today. What I have been asked to talk is a living related program. Now, in a living donor source, there are two broad categories. One is a near related, and as per the Indian Transplant Act, the near related means grandparents, parents, siblings, spouse, children, and grandchildren. Now, the approach for donation and the process of transplantation, if the donor source is near related, is much more simpler because the relationship is proved by the documents as well as by the testing of human leukocyte antigen called HLA antigen. So here the complexity is less. Now, anybody who is outside these relation is called other than the near relation. And in the group other than the near relation, the person who can donate may be a distant relative, which include maternal or paternal uncle, auntie, or cousin. Or if these people are also not medically fit or willing to donate, then even the friend circle can also donate. And the third option, which is actively being pursued in many countries, including India, is a swap transplant, in which there are two families, and in each family, donor is not compatible with the recipient of that pair, whatever, whether it is a medical reason or it is a blood group not matching or there is a sensitization against that donor. So two pairs, although they are not compatible to each other, but they are compatible to if you go across, which means that the donor of the one family gives kidney to other family recipient and vice versa. Now, in my opinion, there is no controversy in the act. What is problem is that we in India are trying to or are able to twist the rule in and try to do in our favor. Now, in terms of a recipient, it is definitely genuine problem that dialysis is not as accepted or as quality of life is not as good, the cost is involved. So any recipient requiring end-stage renal disease needing dialysis or transplant, he definitely wants to go for the transplant because it is cheaper and the quality of life and the longevity of life is better. So he tried to, you can say in a simple word, try to manipulate in any way to get a organ. So that is why there is a complexity. But law very clearly says that if you do not have a medically fit near relation who is ready to donate, you can go to the distant relation and it is legally acceptable. If that is also not possible or not available, you can go to the friend circle and they can officially also and legally also can donate. But there should be some affection showing that that distant relative or the friend is whatever he is doing by in terms of donating the organ is doing on the basis of a love and affection. Now, what many of our previous colleague has given example of Spain or US, or we must realize that whatever is ethics in one country may not be ethical in other country. So whatever program has succeeded in Spain or the way US is doing, it may not be applicable or may not be practical in Indian setup. So what is most important is that we all collectively, including policymakers, society, professional, and patient, do all such activity to increase the disease donor transplant so that the living donor transplant requirement is bare minimal and which can be fulfilled by the just by near relation, and the need of other than near relation question does not arise. But if we try to say that there is a deficiency in the transplant act and there is a suggestion that the near relation list should be widened and the distant relation and the maternal and paternal and in-laws should be included in the near relation, in our society is probably not that mature at the moment that we will be able to fulfill the objective that there is a no commercial transaction in the whole transplant process. It's very difficult to be sure. That is why I don't see there is a problem in the Transplant Act. Within this system also a friend can donate, but I will still say that we all should do efforts to increase the disease donor transplant so that the need of other than near relation, which is a controversial area, doesn't arise. With that, I end my presentation, and I will again remind the listeners that you have to be sure that the ethics which is or the process of transplant which is successful in other country is not likely to be successful. It is not necessary that it will be successful in an Indian context also. Thank you very much for your kind attention.